Good evening, everyone. You're listening
Now recording.
to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
I'm Aaron. Welcome back, people.
Welcome back, Aaron. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back, listeners. How are you feeling this evening, Aaron?
I'm doing pretty good. I went for a nice little jog after work. I'd been feeling a little bit lazy, so I had to get a workout in. So did that, had some food, ready to roll.
Now, here's me derailing the conversation immediately. What do you define as lazy? That's an interesting thing to start off with. Like, what makes you feel like I gotta get up and move?
For me, I guess the main thing is right now I have been working on myself. And I've been actively trying to do things that are good for myself. I've been trying to eat healthier, not eat too much, work out more, do good stuff for my mental health and all, take my medicine, all those good things. So the laziness, I guess, was that this past weekend, it was a little too busy, so I didn't get to get my workouts in at all, and wanted to make sure I kind of get back into it. Don't let it just kind of slide until it's been too long and I'm dying the next time I try and exercise.
Right.
So that's the main
It's
thing.
easier to keep a ball rolling than to move it from a stop position.
Exactly.
Right.
Good old
I understand.
Static and kinetic friction. Nice physics lesson there.
Hell yeah, man. Shout out Mr. Harwell. Or Harwood, yeah.
Or Helzer. Which one?
Harwood. We always used to call him Hardwood. Haha, dick joke.
I mean, what else are high schoolers going to do?
Nothing. It's just dick jokes and prom, pretty
Basically.
much.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, man. Anyway, I think we've got a good show packed for this evening. I think a good place to start. I know your arm has a little more color than it had previously.
It does. So a little, just kind of tilt it so the people can see briefly. But yeah, so
have you been doing the store's over that way, dude?
I have not, but I definitely do look at it a lot because it'll just kind of catch my eye when I have a short sleeve on. It's just kind of poking out from under my sleeve.
Right.
And I'm I'm still not used to it enough that I just kind of ignore it. I'm just like, oh, look at that. That's cool.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's props to the artist too, because not only is it your vision brought to life, but it's done in a way that is, which I imagine is the goal of it, is it's pleasurable to the eye. It's it's fun to look at.
Oh yeah.
So that's sick, and it's not even done yet.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about going and getting my next session. That is about 2 weeks out. So I'm going to sit through about 5 hours of needles in my arm for the color to get done this next time. And I'm super excited. The artist is really cool too. He's been doing it he kind of was giving me his story as we were going through. He was like, we can talk, we don't have to talk. I can do both at the same time, tattoo and talk at the same time, so it's fine. If you want to chat. I'm like, cool. I'm just going to be my normal self and talk a lot and ask questions.
Right.
So I found out he's been doing it for 20 years, since he was 15 or 16. He's been tattooing. He got really good because his town and the next town over, when he was 17, 18, all the kids were turning 18 and just kind of were trying to one up each other on who could get the coolest tattoo from him. And so he got a ton of practice by just tattooing all the kids from his town and the next town over.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and so it was cool hearing him, and of course had to ask him what's the weirdest tattoo that he's given or that he's been like asked to give, which was very interesting. It went a slightly different direction than I was expecting, but he basically said he was working at the shop. Someone called. They're like, "Oh, hey, like, do you do explicit tattoos?" And he's like, "Ah, this is probably a joke," but he's like, "Yeah, like $300 minimum, like plus these like other fees or whatever."
Right.
And so I'm like, when he says this, I'm thinking like, oh, is this like tattooing a weird area on the body, or is it like the actual picture in the tattoo? Right. So I'm like, all right, let's see where this goes.
And I'm guessing it was the picture that was going to be lewd.
It was
okay. Also, in like a like in a genital region, or well, you'll get to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But that's like kind of where my thoughts went. I'm like, oh, like, sure, gotta see where this goes. So he basically said the guy like shows up to the tattoo shop, is like, so I want a girl getting a facial tattooed on the side of my stomach. And he's like, so, like, you want, like, the dick and everything in it, too? And the guy's like, yeah. And so he does it. He, like, tattoos the guy. Guy's super, super happy with it. Goes on his merry way. My artist doesn't think anything of it until a couple years later. He's at, like, some function with other artists, and he sees one of his buddies who does cover-ups.
Right.
And his buddy's like, yo, like, you'll never guess, this guy, like, came in and he had this tattoo. And my artist is like, yeah, like, I did that tattoo. And the guy's like, no way. Like, I had to send him away because it was done too well. I couldn't cover it up.
Yo, that's so sweet. So, like, does that mean individual shops have different, like, cover-up policies? They're like, no, I'm not going to touch that work.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Did he not do it on, like, a respect level? He's like, no, I'm not going to cover that shit up.
No, it was, because, like, there are certain artists that are, like, they specify in different styles or different things. Some of them do, like, traditional. Some of them do, like, color, black and white, portrait, all these different kinds. And this guy specifically, like, one of his things is covering up bad tattoos and finding a way to put, like, a new piece over top of it that
but it wasn't a bad tattoo.
No, that just, like, hides whatever was under it. So this guy, like, I guess a couple years later decided that he wanted to have it covered up because, I don't know, maybe a relationship, it was a little hindering.
Whoa. Can you imagine, like, taking your shirt off the first time you're gonna fuck a girl? She's like, what the fuck is that? Dude, especially if he was like, yo, I want to... Who was the girl based on? Who was getting the diamond necklace?
Even weirder, it was the guy's, like, example picture that he brought for it was a picture of, like, one of his exes to use as like the subject for the...
no, dude. So was it like, dude, so is that almost like hate art on his body? Like, yeah, well, like, come on my ex's face.
I don't know if it was like that. It almost, the way he described it seemed more like he's still still about it, or maybe something about her, like,
no.
I don't know. But the story does not end there, which I thought it would.
I love it. Keep it going. Keep it going.
So a little bit later on, he bumps into, apparently the tattoo artist community is relatively small in terms of, like, seeing each other and, like, bumping into each other at events, conventions, whatnot. So a little while later, he bumps into this person, and the guy's like, yo, I was at, like, this swingers party, and with, like, bunch of people being swingers and doing it up.
So this is a popular tattoo, I'm gathering.
Apparently, but
Well known.
the guy with the tattoo goes over and he's chatting with my artist friend and basically is like, oh, like, who did your tattoo? And the guy's like, oh, it was this guy. And he's like, oh, I have a tattoo by him too. And like lifts up his shirt and still had it. And like all I can think of is like, this dude cannot go out. Like this guy, he can't go to the beach and take his shirt off. He can't go to a pool at like no pool parties for this guy with
Right.
like at like no niece and nephew pool party where you're taking off your shirt and going swimming. Like you've got
There are a lot of people though that just like wear t-shirts and stuff in the water.
which is fair, but I like that crossed my mind. I'm like, this dude really can just never like take his shirt off in public or like
without being like reprimanded anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
Crazy.
that is a wild thing to like. And the best part to me is that the guy was like super happy with it after he got it. He was like just pumped on how he's like, it was like the guy thought it was done so well.
Yeah,
and it was exactly what he wanted and like all that. I'm just like,
what a gag, man. That's so funny.
just wild. So I got my my tattoo started on Friday. Then my weekend consisted of having some friends come into to town as a surprise for my friend who was getting proposed to. So we had a nice little celebration for them getting engaged and all, and it was a good time. So busy weekend.
Nice. Now, how do you celebrate an engagement these days?
So we went to
Is it like a funeral type ceremony? Is it a celebration of life?
So I mean, there was alcohol. So for me, it was a good time. No, I would say we went to an Airbnb that they had set up and everything. There was some family and friends there. Had a toast. Started drinking, eating food, hanging out, spending time, and just chilling, kind of. So it was a pretty laid back celebration, but it was fun to have some people there to celebrate.
So let me put you on the spot here, Aaron. Let me ask you this. At what time in the evening do the racial slurs come out between you and your friends?
Not slurred. No, they don't come out.
That's good.
So that's definitely good. However, in college, a couple of our friends, we have a friend who is black, and I have a black friend. I'm not racist.
Right.
But a couple of us would occasionally make some questionable jokes. No slurs, no, like, not derogatory.
Right.
But our friend would always laugh at them. In not
Well,
a...
that's good.
Not,
That's
like,
good.
yeah, we were not, like... We're not bad people.
Not yet, anyway. Not yet.
So yeah,
Judgment Day will come.
No racial slurs. But I did find out that my one buddy is also into F1 due to the Drive to Survive series. So that was pretty cool.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you get him into the podcast? Did you ask him? You have to ask in this form. Hey, do you listen to the best F1 podcast in the world?
I did not ask him. I did tell him about the pod that we do, like talk about F1 a bit and kind of go through it and all. So,
hell yeah,
absolutely.
Shout out that guy.
Yeah, my boy Jeff. So
nice. What's
Jeff,
up,
if
Jeff?
you're listening, what's up? Appreciate having someone, another person to talk F1 with. It's fun.
Heck yeah, nice.
So.
Now you had said that that this was going to be the one tattoo. I wanted it to be a good tattoo and no more tattoos. Now that you had that needle in your arm like a heroin addict, how do you feel? Are you going to get another tattoo?
We'll see. I'm
Yeah, that's so funny.
so I don't want anything else yet. Like there's nothing like this was something that took a long time of me thinking about and deciding on and all. So I was like so if I do get something down the road, it's also gonna probably be a while and take a decent bit of thought.
Sure.
If I do get something else down the road, I would probably finish off the sleeve all the way down to like my like wrist area.
Gotcha.
So that would probably be what I would do if I do down the road. But for now, I'm pretty happy. The art looks really cool. I'm excited to see it all in color. So I'm cool just chilling on this for a bit.
Hey, fair enough, man. But even that is a much different tune than you were singing before, so that's pretty funny.
Yeah, like
I appreciate that big time. I like that a lot.
Oh yeah,
give that boy some business, man. If you like the artist, give him some business. Like that's another big element of it.
Oh, definitely, and like he is good at what he does, and it's like from talking to him, it's like art is his life. Like not just tattooing, but like. He does murals. He runs a nonprofit that like provides art supplies to like kids in like I guess like school districts and whatnot that don't have as much like funding for the arts and things like that. So like
that's sweet, man.
Everything about his life is just like doing art. He's got some art in a documentary that's coming up that is going to be at some different film festivals. That they shot in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Very cool.
They brought like 10 artists in to just like paint all these different murals around the city and all. City, town, whatever you want to call Indiana.
Sure.
But yeah, and had a documentary made out of it. So kind of looking forward to seeing that and getting a little deeper into the kind of art he does and all.
Man. It's cool. That's awesome.
Definitely. So for your week, since we last were on the pod, you were cracking some packs. I had the needle in my arm. I had the needle in my arm, but you had the cardboard crack, my friend.
Bro. And like the moment was insane. Like I wish I could have yelled. So like if there's a point in the cracking where you stop like caring about all the commons and stuff and you're just kind of like hunting for the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I had seen, so we're talking Strixhaven. I got a set booster box, and in the booster boxes,
how many packs?
30 packs.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So in the set booster boxes, they had the mystical archives, which are like popular, staple, important instants and sorceries throughout the history of Magic.
Cool.
2 of the big ones, Demonic Tutor and Tainted Pact. Tainted Pact hadn't had a reprint in a good long time, so that was like helpful for a certain population of players. Anyway, so we get our box on Monday. Our Strixhaven box. We're cracking packs. We're maybe like a quarter, like about a half, like halfway through or so. And I see the mystical archives, right? And it was green. Okay, fair enough. But there was a black one behind it. Because, like, they all have, like, the same kind of, like, border. Right.
Gotcha.
The cards weren't spread enough to know what it was. I didn't see, like, any letters or anything. I could just see green mystical archive, black foil mystical archive.
Ooh.
Dude, in my soul, I was like, don't get too excited, but it could be. I swear to God, that's what I said to myself. I said, don't get too excited.
Yeah.
But it could be. So I flipped through, and I like just slid it by, and I was like, because because at the very same time, Sarah was on the phone with a new client. She was setting up an appointment for me for like the next day, right?
Yeah.
This lady, you know, very sweet. They're like laughing and whatever, and I'm just back there, just like cracking packs, right? So I'm like, I'm like dying, right? I walk over to her and I'm just like, look at this, look at it. Look at it, like so quiet, right? And she's like, I don't really care. Like I'm on the phone, right? So I just had to go back and sit down. I couldn't like properly express my excitement, but I pulled a foil demonic tutor mystical archive out of my Strixhaven box, and then like 2 packs later, I pulled the Tainted Pact, which I don't necessarily need. I don't have a place for that, but it's sick. And definitely. I was like, fuck yeah. Both of the best pulls possible in the same box. One of them foil. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man.
That's
my
awesome.
My hopes and dreams were, fulfilled even more.
Absolutely.
Because I was just hoping for a demonic tutor.
Well, and as
foil one, son.
Yeah.
Get out of here, dude. Insane, bro. Like I never pull foil mythics. I've pulled like 1 foil mythic.
Yeah.
This was the one to get those, son. I was like, yeah.
That's awesome. And crazy. As everyone, well, at least myself, has learned from going through a lot of the different deck techs and all, the tutors, especially in Commander, super important. Super important. So that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, man. And if you watched last week's episode, we did the Najeela deck tech. Demonic Tutor went straight into Najeela.
I was going to ask where it slid in.
Oh, yeah. I knew exactly where it was going the second I saw it. I was like, oh, man.
That's awesome.
So, like, that deck is about, like, that's pretty, like, close as I can get it. I could probably get a couple of fetch lands in there, but other than that, it's, like, it's it, man. And that feels pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
Foil DP. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man.
That's awesome.
But, and I will say this to the universe, I'll say this to you to bear witness as well. I appreciate the karmic balance, so I know that either A, great sacrifices have been made previously for something like that to be made possible, or great sacrifices will have to be made here in the near future to balance those scales.
Fair.
You know, that's just the way life works. You know, you don't get ahead of yourself, but hey, I was super pleased with it.
Hey, you got what you're hoping for, and so the whatever sacrifices karma-wise, whatever you'd want to say.
Yeah, karmically,
will be worth it, I would assume.
Yeah, man, I hope so. That was some good shit. That was some really, really good shit. Speaking of good shit, I'd like to talk about this week's sponsor, Toilet Buddy. I'm just kidding. Well, no. Here's what I would actually like to talk about, though. Not a sponsor, but the bread and butter of our show. Let's talk about the sprint races that have been added for the 2021 schedule.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. Very interesting topic. I saw a lot of mixed opinions online about the sprint races and kind of how people felt about it. So,
well, what was the... Let's remind listeners here a little bit. What was the tall and short of it take originally? Was that we're not really for it, not really against it, excited to see some mix-ups?
Check it out, see how it affects the weekends. They're only doing it for 3 weekends during this season.
Do we know what races yet? I didn't see that. That makes me feel like not a good fan.
No, I didn't see it actively either. I just saw that it was approved for 3 Grand Prix, and let me just...
We don't officially know which ones yet, though.
We do not. I mean, there's still 21 more races to for them to be spread out across. But yeah, no, they have not currently announced what Grand Prix they will be at.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, stay tuned for that information. Now, initial impressions, now that we're like, here we have it, we're going to test it. Are you looking forward to those races? Do you think you're going to have FOMO about regular qualifiers? What are you thinking?
I think it'll still be good. Like, I don't have any thoughts that think this will be a huge negative. The way it's set up, I feel as though we'll still get good qualifying. Like, qualifying still matters. So that will be fine. The thing that I saw from a lot of people online, I guess, is that they are concerned that the sprint races will take away from the excitement of the actual Sunday race, since it's a Saturday sprint race. They're like, oh, well, if, like, normal weekends, you have all this build-up, you have, like, practices, qualifiers, and then it's, like, all the excitement for, like, the actual race. And this time it's going to be, like, practice, qualifying, practice, sprint qualifying, race. So, like, there's a little more, I guess, intensity put on the fact that there's a sprint race, where, not that the practice sessions aren't, like, intense and they're, like, the teams aren't trying to figure anything out, but that having something that is kind of that higher level of intensity might dull down the actual race. I personally don't feel that way. I think that it'll be, like, I'll be excited for both, because I just fucking love watching racing.
And you get more racing.
Exactly. Like,
right.
I enjoy watching the racing. That's fun.
Right.
Like, the practice sessions are fine. Like, you get a good idea of, like, what the cars are going to do and all. But it's not racing. Like, everyone's trying to space out around the track, not really, like, fuck with
hot
each other.
Laps are exciting, though.
Hot laps
it's not
are exciting.
racing, but hot laps are exciting.
Oh, it's great.
Especially when you're in the sub 1 minute, like the sub minute qualifying time. There's still like 15 cars out on the track or whatever, and people are like, you get like the lineup, and they're all like shooting out, going for their thing. That's cool. It's not racing, but it's cool.
Oh, definitely cool. You get
part of the weekend, though.
You get a little bit of the angry hot mics between on team radios, where they're like, "What the fuck is this asshole doing? He's in my line!" Like,
yeah.
I don't know what accent I was trying to do there, but it was just ambiguous, so I'm going to leave it as is. So.
Just international.
International, but I kind of slid into a little bit of, like, New York Italian.
Yeah, slid Italian.
But, like,
New
international,
York, but you skewed Italian.
But, like, New York Italian, not even Italy Italian.
Yeah, just the pizza shop on 7th. Just that guy.
Exactly. But yeah, so I'm happy to see something new.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a better idea whether we like it or dislike, but I don't see myself hating it.
No.
I might see myself not being a huge fan and being like, oh, I prefer the other format, but, like,
right.
I don't see myself being like, why, FIA, are you doing this to us? Like, there's not going to be any of that for me.
What I often think about is, like, what would
Ja do?
No, I don't think that often. Like, what would the meta look like as far as how they set up their, like, race weekend? And then also, so that's the question for the teams, The question for F1 then would be, how do you spin the narrative over the course of the weekend? Because part of the excitement of an F1 weekend is how they tell the story of it, right? Make sure they're highlighting all the right points, talking about this tech stuff, talking about this racer stuff. Part of what we enjoy about a race weekend is the narrative they tell us, right?
Definitely. Absolutely.
So there would be an onus on the F1 broadcast to paint a good picture where they're not peaking at the sprint race and using all their, excuse me, whatever the, excitement for that. And then just kind of like, oh, well, and here we are in the race. But it was like, you don't want it decided in semifinals. That's like kind of what I'm getting at.
Gotcha. I think in the terms of like the story throughout the weekend, it's just going to change the style of the narrative.
Yeah,
if that makes
where you
sense.
get a little bit of a peak before the big peak at the end.
Which
could, and that's okay.
Could hype you up even more because like if you look at it and you're like, okay, normally it's like you got like practice 1, practice 2, practice 3. You're seeing who is like at the top, but all the teams are kind of doing different strategies on each day. Some of them are doing like long runs. Some of them are doing like qualifying pace type runs that are quick and short and like low fuel and stuff like that. Like, and then it just builds to qualifying and then builds to the race. This is going to be a little bit more like roller coaster, I think. Like you have the first practice and then you go the next one straight into qualifying, and you're just like you're actually earlier on in the weekend, you're starting to build a better picture of who's going to be potentially the most competitive. Then practice again, like teams get to work out some different stuff. And then the sprint qualifying race, like you're going to have another little boost where if the sprint qualifying is really close and is like competitive and everything, in my opinion, that could build even more drama leading up to the actual like race. Like if there are different teams that are out there like mixing it up, lots of aggressive like runs and laps and everything, who knows? Like you might end up with even more tension built up. But I guess the downside is you could also just kind of potentially see how the race is going to go if everyone just kind of runs and there's like separation between everyone and there's not a lot of that like jostling for position.
Based on the points awarded for position for 1, 2, and 3 in both constructors and driver championship, so a first place is 6 points total, not just 3 or like vice versa. I think that's really strong. So it does incentivize the drivers to actually race, not just like save pace for the race day Sunday.
Definitely.
And then from like a fan perspective, it actually seems to benefit the fan that doesn't have an interest in the free practice, right?
True.
Because the practice time is minimized for those, and then there's the focus on the sprints. So it seems like you would actually have a more racy weekend for the race fan.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
as opposed to the like, just seeing them running the vehicle.
Yeah. Well, and also just for to clarify, it is 3 points for first, not 6. So 3 for first, 2 for second, 1 for third. I think they initially
it goes to both championships.
Right. Gotcha. So, yeah.
Right. So you're getting like 6 points total. It's not just counting towards your drivers or just for constructors.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So
well, it's 3 points that's double dipping, I'll say like
right. It affects both standings. So
Yeah.
Which in this year's with how close things are looking so far, could be huge. And
I think it's going to matter a whole lot.
definitely. And even in that, like, third, fourth place driver's position as well, it could be really important. I mean, we've seen McLaren have some really good racing. We saw Lando get a podium this past weekend. I mean, Lando finished fourth and then third in the first two races of the season.
Yeah, he's having a great year so far.
He's right there. If he can pick up an extra point or two in a sprint qualifying, could easily like make a difference and hold off someone who's behind him. So
right,
yeah.
Now, this is what I didn't hear. So what I talk about here is speculation. I'm happy to be wrong. So do you have to have the same race setup as sprint setup?
No.
Because that's sick. Because then you can go full softs, an aggressive tune, but have a different setup for race day. And then, to me, that's kind of sick. You know, you have like a multi-tiered loadout for the weekend. It seems if it's implemented properly, the amount of strategic decisions possible just get exponential, and that to me is exciting and interesting.
Yeah, and so they do for the sprint qualifying, like they are, as far as I've read, able to like use a different setup than they would use for the race.
Yeah, that's insane. Like that's so much fun.
So I think the setup that they use in the qualifying, like how if you go to Q3, like you have to use the certain tires that you used in Q2 or Q3 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I got you.
To start on for the actual race, like I believe that still stays the same. So
but you can go into qualies with a fast setup and not be breaking the rules,
right?
As long as you go into race day with that setup.
Yeah, or for the sprint qualifying, you can do whatever you want, and like for race day, it's still whatever you used for qualies on what would be FP2 that would now be qualifying. So
right.
So yeah, I think it's really cool. It adds some excitement
potential excitement,
differentiation to the weekends. It takes you out of the routine, which can be like make things interesting. So I'm
good for the soul,
and I'm excited to see how the drivers kind of handle it, because that'll be an interesting part of it too, like whether or not they can keep form or if they use too much of their I don't know. Like it'll just be interesting to see how they carry over doing an extra, I forget how many kilometers it is. I think it's like 100-kilometer sprint race or something like that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but let's see. Yeah, 100 kilometers, 25 to 30 minutes. So that would be like probably
15 to 21 laps.
Yeah, I'd say probably somewhere right around 20 laps.
Sure, depending on the track.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be nice to see a change, and if it doesn't work this year or people don't like it, like it's 3 races, no harm, no foul. Just go back to normal for next year with the new regulations and all, and
and if it doesn't sound exciting, don't tune in.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I know I will be.
I 100% will be. I'm pumped for
it.
It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, sprint races coming up. Very exciting. Will not be though for this weekend heading into the Portuguese Grand Prix.
Yep.
So, I guess any initial thoughts going into the Grand Prix? Anyone that you're kind of looking out for? Any storylines that you feel like you're following?
Here's a hot take for you. I don't give a fuck about the drivers this weekend. I'm going to be looking at the FIA officials in the pre-race meetings and briefings, and during the race, I want some consistency between modes here. The whole, like, I'm tired of the track limits thing. Is it allowed? Or can they do, like, I don't please clearly define track limits,
Yep.
what the rules are, things that are going to be allowed, things that are not going to be allowed. Because so far, 2 out of 2 races have been question marks have been raised around that topic, and I don't like to see issues get drawn out in my personal life, and it really makes me uncomfortable when I see things like that from it was an obvious problem. Everybody was talking about it. I hope it's going to get shored up to the degree that we as viewers don't feel like, wait, is this just like arbitrary,
Well, yeah, and like throwing
clarity.
out post-race penalties last week, because I mean, it wasn't like we said last last race.
Yeah.
It obviously wasn't the same exact situation as the first race. It wasn't deciding first and second place, but it still made a difference in the points, which further down the field is huge because you're only getting 1 to 6-ish points in those lower, like 8 through 10 positions and everything. So every point is huge down in those spots.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I especially don't like seeing things thrown in post race. Like that's not.
Yeah, that's tough, dude.
Like,
that's tough.
The fact that they didn't make a ruling about it during the race to be like, hey, you have a 10-second stop and go, hit the pits. Like, come on. Like, you gotta.
Yeah. And I don't think my concern is coming from a place of like, oh, I just want to have a hot take, something to be critical about. It's more from like a new fan perspective where things like that happen and I just don't understand. Like, I have a previous view or paradigm, something happens, I feel like it's not explained that well, and then I'm left with this like half opinion or like half thought about the scenario, when if it could have been made a little clearer on the broadcast, a little clearer to the drivers, a little clearer to the teams, maybe we all could have been on the same page.
It's so
and that's just how I feel.
So easy for them to tell the broadcast, hey, we're going to be looking at track limits throughout the race pretty closely. These are the particular turns, because they know which turns are going to be the issues, because they know which ones drivers are coming the hottest into, or maybe they have the sharpest like turn, and so people like swinging wide and whatnot, if there's like side-by-side racing, is going to be an issue. They know this. It's not hard for them to figure out which corners, which areas are going to be a problem.
Year after year, race after race after race. It's proven.
They know.
Yeah.
And all they have to do is tell the broadcast, hey, we'll be looking at these track limits pretty closely, and then when someone goes outside of it, just being like, oh, this person just got a warning for track limits at this corner. We'll be keeping an eye on if other drivers are running wide or having that same issue, or like let you know if that impacts the race at all. And like, yeah, they kind of like casually throw out like, oh, and this person got a black flag or black and white flag. They the next time they do that, they'll get a penalty. But they like throw it out so casually and don't really explain it a lot. They're just like, here's information and back to the rest of the racing, and you just kind of like, it just kind of floats over your head. Like, not that it's hard to understand, but that they make it seem inconsequential when it isn't.
It's very consequential, yeah, and I think that's hammered to the nail right there. Also, to to any counterpoint, we are watching headphones on, not having the broadcast as like our main focus. So we are like split attention in a way where, obviously we could miss some things in the sense of like we're watching it together like online. In that situation, yeah, I can see us missing something, but yeah, overall, I just want to see some clarity. But to answer your original question, obviously, the top of the board's hot, top of the board's exciting, but I think you mentioned it earlier, Lando Norris, man. He wasn't in the conversation previously. He's having a great year. He's racing really well. He's in a fast car.
He's put himself in third in the driver's standings with Bottas having his DNF this past week from his collision with Russell. He's 9 points ahead of him, which is big early. Like, that's most likely not something that's going to be made up with just one race.
Right.
Especially with the form that he's in. Like, last week when Lando was running up in P2 behind Max before Lewis chased him down and caught him, like, Valtteri was battling for 9th and 10th with George. Like, that's where that collision happened. It wasn't like George was having some miraculous race and he was up there with Valtteri in P4, P5, like, whatever. Like, they were down around 10th. Valtteri was not looking super hot in the water, in the rain and everything.
Right.
And so, obviously, that does come into play.
Very much so. But
Lando's looked really solid, and the McLaren car itself, like, has also looked good. I mean, Ricciardo's gotten 2 really solid points finishes. He's tied with Carlos Sainz for 6th in the driver's standings. Like, they're right there. So I would love to see, especially with the qualifying Lando put in last race, I would love to see him have some really, really nice laps in qualifying, maybe a really like good practice session to get him into it. But he seems to have a really good like flow and kind of rhythm going so far, which that momentum I think is huge in F1. That the confidence, especially for a young guy like him, like having that in the back of your mind, like, I'm driving at my max right now.
Being on the peak.
That's a good feeling. So
so definitely going to be watching Lando this weekend. And again, you mentioned it, going to be watching Valtteri. We need to really see him have a great drive to believe that he's, still in the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that drive in the wets was rough. And, that may be, being critical and a little, making a mountain out of a molehill. But
second race of the season, we don't have a lot to go by.
Right.
The pool of data we're pulling from is pretty small, but at this point, it's all we've got. So, like, any conjectures or kind of like inferences we're making about how the drivers are doing, like, and
that's all it is. It's just conjecture, which is fine.
So, but that's what we're here to talk about. It's fun. It should be a pretty good weekend. I definitely am excited though to see the second seats for the top 2 teams, because Sergio obviously had some issues last race, dropped down outside of the points, but he had that P2 qualifying. Like, he had a phenomenal qualifying, so the pace is there. It's just not making those mistakes that make him fall back.
Right.
So we'll see how he does, how Valtteri does. See if they can kind of put themselves back up into the big talks of what's going on at the top of the grid. So
of what's going on.
Exactly. They want to be
what's going on, dude. Talk of the town.
Exactly.
Hell yeah. Nice.
So, yeah, should be pretty solid. I am also, like, personally, for me, the team that I am still the most excited to watch for is AlphaTauri. Like, outside of Red Bull. Because
Right.
like...
I thought you were gonna say Mercedes as a joke. I was
Oh,
gonna be like,
no,
wait,
no.
what the fuck, dude?
No, I,
We're
like...
not those guys, are we?
No, like, Yuki and Gasly have both had some pretty solid drives, and
Yeah.
I think the car has some really good pace. So I would love to see them battling up in the points a bit more, and just like seeing how well they can run up there, because I think they're both solid drivers. They've got a decent midfield car at the very least.
Yeah.
So I'd
They've
like
got
to
a
see.
great parent organization.
Yeah, no complaints on this end.
No complaints on there. But the thing about it is, like, they were casually like up in points contention during the race, which was something that we were seeing in some races, but not all. I'm hoping that that's more of a thing that we're seeing, is AlphaTauri becoming a top of the midfield point scoring squad, man. And dude, Yuki putting his car in the wall tells me that with a little bit of hone, man, like steel sharpened steel, a little bit of that action going on, I think Yuki's gonna be the fucking Asian Avenger, dude.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you see it with a lot of these like rookie drivers and everything. I know that the Haas guys have a tough car to be working with, but it's something that happens with young drivers. They're trying to find the limits of like what they can do in the F1 car, and sometimes that puts them in a wall, spins them out. Like, it's part of the learning process, and I think.
I guess what I'm getting at is I'm happy to see Yuki going for the points and putting the car in the wall than being happy with 17th and not pushing at all.
100%. He's gunning for it, and he's pushing the car to the limits that he can do right now. And like sometimes you go over it, but even the most experienced drivers do that sometimes. Like it's part of the learning process, and I think in my own experience, I personally learn things a lot more quickly from fucking up than I do from going through my normal day-to-day kind of thing. So
I learn better from my own mistakes than somebody else's mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate him not being too cautious with it. And hey, he's got some points on the board, which a lot of the drivers, I believe 7 of the drivers cannot say at this point. So
there you go. That's a rookie season for you.
Yeah,
I love to see it.
Great start to a rookie season. He's even ahead of the rookie Fernando Alonso. So.
Yeah. The rookie year of Fernando Alonso is not going well. I can't imagine his rookie baseball card being worth a lot.
Unfortunate to say the least.
Unfortunate, dude. Batting average real low.
Yeah, but just as I guess a quick refresher for kind of how Portugal went last year. We had a Mercedes 1-2 finish. Max. So Lewis, that was his 92nd victory, the record-setting one. To pass Michael Schumacher's
because it was record. Later in the season.
It was. Valtteri second, a solid 26 seconds back. Max, a solid third, 34 seconds back. And then fourth was Leclerc in the Ferrari. That was one of the ones he put a really good performance in on a not great Ferrari car.
Right.
But he was still over a minute back. Like, the fourth place was the only person that Lewis, fourth, third, second were the only people that Lewis didn't lap that race.
Oh, wow.
So hoping for it to be a little bit closer, because that's like a huge spread for the top 4 drivers.
Yeah, it is.
So
it is.
I would like to see it a little tighter. And I think this year we will, with how things have gone thus far. So
sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good weekend.
definitely. So very excited about that. We've got practice one on Friday at 6:30 a.m. Practice 2 Friday at 10 a.m. Practice 3 Saturday 7 a.m. Qualifying 10 a.m. on Saturday, and then the race 10 a.m. on Sunday. So
Hell yeah.
Eastern Standard Time for any listeners that may not be same time zone as us.
Right. Check the website for local times there.
Definitely.
But yeah, we will be live a little later, which is nice. I won't have to wake up so early.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be live for the race companion.
Yep.
For the Portugal Grand Prix this weekend on Sunday.
Next bonus episode, so looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, man.
So I guess moving along to the next thing, I did want to just remind everyone briefly. Next Thursday will be May 6th is when the mid-season invitational in I'm gonna butcher Reykjavik, Iceland, something like
Hell
that.
Yeah.
Will be starting up. So we've got that here, not too far in the horizon. We've got some day one schedules already out there. If you just Google MSI 2021, they've got some of the schedules going on, at least for the first day. And then, no, actually they have them for a lot of the days. So for the initial round robin, we'll be able to get a pretty good idea of the schedules and everything.
Nice.
So
okay, cool. Yeah, I think some homework that I'm going to do over this week is do some research on the international teams, do some research on like kind of the patch, and see, get a good, hopefully get a good sense of some of these teams coming in, because I don't understand the international regions as much as I would like to going into a tournament like this.
I'm the same. I may.
To any listeners, I'll be upfront about that. Is I'm going to be doing some homework this week to learn about them and see what this tournament's going to be all about, because it's a new format where one team from each region is coming, not two teams or three teams or a team and a half.
Yep, different from Worlds, MSI, just the top one. And since we didn't have one last year, it kind of needed a little refresher on how that works.
Well, and we all know Riot just loves messing with their messing with how they do their competitions.
Very different format from previous MSIs as well.
Right.
2 different round robin stages with eliminations and
no show matches.
So no show matches, no all-stars. Definitely want to do. I agree. I need to do a bit of research, get up on the teams, but I have been trying to follow a little bit about the patch that they'll be on, and it looks interesting. It looks like they're...
Will Gwen be live?
No. So Gwen and what's the other one? Viego. Neither of them will be live for it.
Viego still not live?
Still
Dude,
not live.
That sucks, because I know a lot of mid laners have been putting a lot of time into Viego.
So, just a couple of champions that I'm curious to see how much they get brought out. We've got Rumble in the Jungle is apparently very strong right now. Really good clear, really good dueling. Plus, with the AP jungle, gives potential to play some of those 80 carries, the Tristana, the Lucian, mid lane, and things like that. So that will be interesting. But also, apparently, the Rumble jungle has also led to some Lee Sin mid lane.
And top lane, which is exciting.
Caps apparently was, even though he won't be at MSI, has been spamming some solo queue Lee Sin mid. So I'm intrigued by it. It just makes me think of, with when I hear Lee Sin mid, it makes me think of when guys do 1v1s and they're like, we're both going to play Lee Sin on Howling Abyss. And they're just like throwing out sonic waves and like, yeah, that's all it reminds me of. It's
well, because people believe it is in the upper echelon of highest skill ceiling champions.
Definitely.
He like if you can play a champion the best, Lee Sin is going to be one that you could demonstrate that on via your insects, via your hopping, maneuverability,
flash kicks or kick flashes and whatnot.
Right, all sorts of fancy stuff.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see that potentially be in competitive. Rumble in the jungle is not that outrageous. Like, Rumble has consistently throughout the years been a pick that gets picked up in different spots, whether it's been mid lane, primarily top lane, of course, but it has shown up at different points in time. So
I feel like the Lee Sin is only going to come in. I feel like the Lee Sin will only come in if the mid lane and team severely disrespects the matchup. That sounds like a style pick.
Could also just be a counter pick depending what's in the mid lane on the other side. But if other teams are picking these like Tristana Lucians, I don't expect it. Like having the close range melee.
You get so bullied. You get so bullied.
And it's just not the value you get out of the potential outplays of the pick, in my mind, don't shift the balance of losing lanes super hard. So,
no, because there's plenty of champions that can lose lane like that, that are strong.
You could maybe see it into some control mages. Wouldn't be super shocked because you can kind of just, like an Orianna, just dodge the ball a little bit. You can use your safeguard to kind of dip out if a shockwave's thrown at you. Like there's some potential for that, but still, like, you're in a ranged versus melee matchup, which is not going to be great for you. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what if it gets brought out and what it gets kind of played into for that. So looking forward to it. MSI is going to be a lot of fun. 6 games a day for the first round robins, 6 days of those round robins. So that's just back to back to back.
Yeah, like, Jesus, that's a lot of games.
Thursday through Tuesday, 6 games a day. Just rolling.
I'm gonna be here for it all, though.
Oh, I'm pumped. And any games that I don't get to see, I'll be watching all the VODs. Trying to keep up with how things are looking.
Love tournament time.
It's so fun. It's exciting. Yeah. So
very, 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 very exciting. So we'll have more information next week. We'll do a little bit more of a primer. Talk about players, teams, more picks, things like that. But yeah, we're just kind of setting it up a little bit.
Definitely. But staying on the same sort of train.
Yep.
The Rito train. Moving along to Valorant, which it's been fun. We got a couple more times of play, one more time for me. I think everyone else had a couple more times of playing some of the customs and everything, getting some games in. New Valorant map. Tell me about it. I haven't played it yet, but you have. So
it's called Breeze. It's set on it feels like an old island castle / amusement park thing, maybe. It's pretty cool. It seems we played a bunch of rounds on it last night. It seems CT sided in the sense that there's only 2 sites, and the sites are relatively easy to defend.
There's it looks like, from just looking at the map of it, the overview, Lots of open area on site.
Lots of open area on site, but what's interesting is you'll notice A short and B short is there's like a 10-step walk from like T spawn to a plant. You only have to walk like a couple of steps and you're already on the site. So I think the design trade-offs are actually really interesting, where there's like very quick ways to get onto a site, but you're pushing into open water, right?
Definitely.
The angles on you are much cleaner than the angles you have on the CT sides.
Yeah, and so what you're saying to me, what gun that I am terrible at using is gonna probably be pretty popular on this map?
Dude, aren't we all? The operator, man. There is an A long and like a bunch of viewpoints like over the mid that you're just gonna be, if you're comfortable with the rifle and you're comfortable holding these like angles, you're just going to be doming cats left and right. Like, it is such an open map, and that peak down that long hallway from the A side, it's just insane. We were all afraid to go there last night playing against Matt and Max.
So, would you say you need to be a smooth operator?
That was really bad, but I would say that
it was bad, but it was also similar to a Carlos Sainz smooth operator team radio that he had. So,
okay.
So I'm mixing some Valorant, some F1, just
getting all the memes, dude. Getting all the memes.
Absolutely, that was.
No, I appreciate that. Okay.
That was pretty rough though on my side. Didn't really hit.
Yeah. Ooh,
no clean notes. Don't clip that.
No Adele. For you, man. Holy shit. So yeah, Breeze for Valorant. If you haven't played it, check it out. I think it's pretty fun. We were hitting it pretty hard last night. Tough board. It's pretty fun though. Pretty fun. I think it'll be better 5v5. We were only able to play 3v3. So like the meta's a little bit different. We were just playing like the fast rushing duelists, like able to get kill characters. But yeah, it's a fun board. I like it a lot. I'm enjoying Valorant for the most part.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
It's been fun getting to play a little bit more. I mean, we even played some competitive matches the other day, and
and just in time for our ranks to be reset too.
Yeah,
it's a new act or whatever, new season.
But I think it's funny. I know you were half joking with Kyle a bit about my raging that I would have in League, half joking.
Mostly not joking.
Mostly not joking, but to me it's kind of amusing to see that like in League a lot of the times I would be frustrated with other people. And in Valorant, I'm mostly just frustrated with
myself.
And I can't tell if that's just me growing older and like being more mature, or if it's just like I was much better at League than I am at Valorant. So like the League thing, I was like, I know I'm pretty decent. So the frustration was like carried over with other people. In Valorant, I know I'm bad. Like I'm like bad.
Real iron, as they say.
Iron sharpens iron, my friend.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun when we've gotten to play. It's a good time. Also, just as another side note, Warzone had a big update recently, which I've enjoyed the game a lot more recently for Warzone 2. Because
nice.
I was getting a little burned out of it with they just weren't making changes or doing updates frequently at all. And it was just the things that were like broken were just broken for way too long to where it was just frustrating. Now with this like big update, they changed a lot of the guns, nerfs and buffs and things like that. It's seems a lot more balanced. It seems like you can use a lot more different things, which is cool. Like it's really refreshed like how I feel about the game, which is nice.
That's good. Nice.
So
Happy to hear it.
definitely getting some good gaming time in over the past week or so.
Gotta love games. That's what Pandem has been real good for, is games with the boys.
Well, I mean, it was always, like, for a while, it's been a way of me keeping in touch and, like, hanging out with people that I can't see super frequently. And so it's super nice that so many people jumped on board during the pandemic to kind of keep it going, and also for some new games to kind of pop up to play and all that, keep things fresh, and also, like, get me playing with new friends. Like, it's cool to be playing with Max and Josh and Jeremy and, like, Kyle and all those guys.
Yeah, that's the fun element, is like getting to talk to some dudes that you haven't in a while, and it's the game that's bringing you together. I think that's really fun.
Definitely. And, like,
that's really what it's about.
With Kyle, like, I've enjoyed playing some of the other games we've played, like The Forest and, like, Don't Starve and some of that, and For the King and all. Like, great games, but it's kind of cool being in a more competitive environment with him too, like a different style of game. As opposed to those, like, super team-based, story-based kind of
and
things.
Just kind of casual, you know?
Right, like, we're not... I mean, FaZe isn't signing me anytime soon, so...
No, me neither, man, and I'm okay with that.
I am perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. So, if you haven't tried Breeze, give it a go. If you haven't tried Valorant, give it a go. I think it's pretty fun. Me and Aaron have been having a good time, meeting some new friends, meeting new people. It's always exciting, but yeah, to your point, definitely more frustrated with myself. I've been debating, like, man, I need to, like, either not care about how I play or make a concerted effort to get better, because the self-loathing is getting intense.
So the one thing that I feel like actually has been a little bit helpful, obviously we've mentioned that the Valorant practice tool is pretty solid.
It's super sweet.
But Aim Lab, you can get it on Steam for free. Also a very good option for just, like, fine-tuning those, like, fine motor movements,
the flick movements,
the flicks, moving around, like, just really trying to get your pointer on those dots and hitting those shots a little bit more.
Yeah.
I did that a little bit back when I first started playing Valorant. I downloaded Aim Lab and messed around with it a little. Haven't done a lot of it recently, so it speaks to why my aim has probably not improved a ton. But definitely a worthwhile tool as well. So,
yeah, I'll have to give that a shot, because I definitely want to improve. It's a fun game, but it feels bad to be bad at it. Yeah. And feel like you're no help.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because, like, with no respawns until the next round, like, if you die immediately, which happens to me plenty, like. Especially because, like, you're just sitting there watching, and you're just like, I hope my team's got it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's been, the position I've been in a good amount of times, so it doesn't feel too good.
I've had my fair share. It definitely happens. So that's why there's at least 13 rounds per game. So it gives you plenty of
time.
Exactly. So
most of my matches go all the way to the end, though.
Yeah, we've had some tight ones.
Oh yeah, I find that to be quite fun, though. Like, overtime, bouncing back and forth. I think that's exciting.
Stresses me out too much.
Well, yeah. Oh yeah.
I just want to win. Like, I would not. I'm very much someone who, like, I have friends, and this carries over to, like, football and things like that. Like, going to Penn State games and everything, I would much rather just see them stomp the opponent than have some super close game that goes to overtime and, like, if they win, it's absolutely nuts. But if they lose, you're just like, I was so close. Like,
Right.
that's where I would much rather just take the lesser exciting victory than the super amped up like one, or with the
Gotcha.
potential of a very sad loss.
Because it's easier emotionally.
Oh, 100%.
I respect that. Okay.
So
I can get behind that. It's not bad.
that's kind of where I'm at with that. So,
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
but getting to the deck tech,
Is that where we're at?
we are. Unless there was any other stuff you wanted to hit on before we move along there.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm looking at my list, and yeah, I think that is everything.
Yeah,
Me.
a lot of this week was a lot of still kind of lead and set up to some of the upcoming events like MSI and the race this weekend and everything. So moving through the topics a little bit quicker than usual, but
Well, yeah. Being that we're like in between competition and the races, it's not the most content-packed week.
Yeah.
One might say.
definitely a little downtime. Just I think mostly due to the fact that League had the little bit of a break between end of LCS regular season into MSI. So,
Yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, they have a lot of like visas and all that travel and all that shit to get together. So,
Well, and not only that, like all the fucking just like equipment moving, and the logistics just must be insane for something like that. I can't even imagine.
oh yeah, like that's intense event planning.
Yeah. The wedding planner ain't got shit on them.
No, definitely
No.
not.
Now, do you have the list pulled up?
I do. Yes,
All
indeed.
right. So this week we're talking about Kaikar wins Fury. One, a blue, a red, and a white for a 3/3 bird wizard with flying. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. One of these motherfuckers.
Ooh.
And then he has an activated ability. Sacrifice a spirit. Add 1 red mana to your mana pool.
Okay.
So, the goal of this deck, it's a pseudo storm deck. Pseudo, not fully, pseudo. Where I'm looking to cast a whole bunch of non-creature spells into a win with Elsha plus Sensei's Divining Top.
Okay.
So it's like a 3-card combo basically that we're looking for. So if you go to creatures, you're looking at Elsha of the Infinite.
Yep.
In artifacts, you're looking for Sensei's Divining Top and Helm of the Awakening.
Gotcha.
So Helm of the Awakening says all spells cost 1 generic mana less to play. How much does Sensei's Divining Top cost?
That is a 1 mana cost.
Right. So if you had Helm of the Awakening plus a Sensei's Divining Top, how much does that Divining Top cost?
0.
Right. So what you do with that little combo is with Elsha, you're able to cast the Sensei's Divining Top off the top of your library for free. It hits the battlefield, tap it, draw a card, put Sensei's Divining Top on top of your library. Bam. And then you just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over again.
So extra draw every turn, essentially.
And not just extra draw every turn, you can use that to draw your whole deck.
Gotcha.
Because it's free, you're not spending any mana to do it, so you can just go down the whole line. Every time you put that Divining Top on top of your library, you draw a card. First. and then you put it there.
Okay.
And then with Elsha, if you read what she says, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may cast the top of your library. If it's a non-creature, non-land card, you may cast it as though it had flash. So with Sensei's Divining Top, it's not a creature, it's not a land. You can cast it off the top of your library. So you can draw your deck, but also you get a bunch of spell casts, because every time you cast that Divining Top for 0, that adds to your storm count. And if you have Kaikar on the battlefield, you just generated 1 red mana. So, depending on what time of the game you do this at, when you draw your deck, you'll generate anywhere from like 60 to like 82 mana. Okay. 82 red mana just sitting in your mana pool. Okay. So you're at that point in the game. All of your opponents are still alive. What do you do?
That's what,
so.
Yep. That was
the storm count is at 82. You have Grape Shot in the library. That's a sorcery.
Yep.
So it says deal 1 damage to any target. Storm. So it'll get copied for every other spell that was cast before it on the turn. So effectively, we'll get 83 instances of 1 damage. By that point in the game, let's just say that gets to hose two of the players. We get to take out 2 of the players with the Grape Shot, but there's still 1 opponent left alive. Okay, what do we do?
Can you split that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, yeah. You can point each individual copy at a new or different target. Gotcha. So let's say we get to get rid of 2 of our opponents with that. What do we do then? Because our library is empty.
And you've used all of your spirits. So
right.
You don't.
They're all gone. They're all off the battlefield.
You don't have any of them out on the battlefield anymore.
So at that point, what we would want to do is look for a way to reshuffle our library. Now, this is a very precarious situation because there's only 1 card that can do this. Hopefully, I didn't exile it or do anything stupid with it. Hopefully, it's in my hand at this point. So what would we do? We would make a Perfuro, so he's in the creatures. So he says, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, he'll deal 2 damage to each opponent. So we would want to get him onto the battlefield first. And then, if you go to instance, we're going to cast a big emergency powers. So that's going to shuffle everything back together and then give me a fresh hand of 7. But what we'd be able to do is have Divining Top on the battlefield and Elsha on the battlefield and all of the other pieces still on the battlefield. They don't get shuffled in, so we can just do it again with our whole library.
Gotcha. So,
and even though emergency power says exile it, 2 runs through the deck should be enough to kill any table, pretty much.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because how much life does each person have to start? 40.
Even like the most egregious life gain deck, I'd still be able to get through, I think.
Gotcha.
So that's the win con. That's what we're looking for. Kaikar is a way to generate extra mana and generate extra creatures if that matters. Anything like that.
Very interesting. I like it.
Yeah. So now, I know everybody's clamoring. They're saying, Justin, just shuffle up and draw 7. Okay, we can do that now.
Awesome.
Let me switch setup.
Yep, we'll get the camera going. So, another, I will have to, once Justin gets this set up, I'll have a question for him about the deck. Give it a little tilt. There we go. So, Justin, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect.
So, my question that I've got for you that I don't know if anyone else is wondering is approximately how quickly, turn-wise, do you expect to be able to get to your combo? with Elsha and Divine Top and the emergency powers, because obviously it's going to take a second turn after, most likely will take 2 turns of you having your combo before you can hit victory.
So I believe it would be not as fast as Najila, because there are a couple of like tutors that I'd be missing that would like really hone the consistency of the deck.
Gotcha.
However, the deck has some pretty good card draw and tutors. So we have War of Invention. We have Trinket Mage, and we also have Search for Glory, which can go find us Perforos.
Okay.
Which is a big part of the combo. So we have a couple tutors. We have a couple ways to find the pieces that we need. So that shores up the consistency. I think on average, I could expect to threaten a win by like, if I'm being conservative, probably like turn 7 or turn 8, okay, which is about 2 turns faster than our average game time in the format, like our little commander pod that we play. So it's on the fast side, but it's not as quick as, say, like a Najila or my Kess deck, which we'll get to next weekend. Or
gotcha.
Next week.
Very cool. I was curious kind of how that fits in with the overarching meta of the play group.
It's fast, and I think one of the main components is, and maybe we'll see in my opening hand one of them, but the protection package, the Say No package in this deck is insane. It's probably the best one that I have in any of my decks. Gotcha. We have the Pact of Negation plus Force of Will, which are 2 free counterspells. Most of the time in a game, you don't need more than 1 free counterspell to swing it in your favor. It's just such a massive tempo advantage. And the deck plays enough blue that I'm never going to be starved for the Force of Will exile. So Force of Will says you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost to target counter a target spell.
If it says a blue card, can that be something like Jorah, since she's a blue and a red?
It could be, yeah.
Okay, so
and that's what I'm saying. The deck has so many blue options,
it does,
even in the multicolor cards, like I'm gonna have a blue card to exile that I don't need otherwise.
Gotcha.
So the protection package is really good in the deck, which I think makes it a strong contender. So even if I don't have the speed, I have the ways to say no to my opponents on the way to putting together my own victory. And the suite of artifacts that I have is just kind of like obscene, with the Sword of Fire and Ice, Skull Clamp, the KCI, Krark Clan Ironworks, plus Ashnod's Altar. Like, I'm just able to generate obscene amounts of mana way before my opponents will be able to do it. So it tends to be a force to be reckoned with.
Gotcha. And so is this one of your
my babies,
your decks that gets banned frequently?
Oh yeah, people don't like this deck at all.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't like it at all.
I had a feeling, but I was curious if this is up there with the Najila in terms of ban outs.
Oh yeah, and that's what makes it my favorite, because that counts as a win in my book. If it gets banned, that means you fear it, and that's a win.
Yeah, that means you put a good deck together. So
exactly. So now let's see. Let's draw a couple 7 here. We have our first 7 here. Let's check it out. So let's organize things here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lands. We've got a counter spell specifically for something that's trying to remove my things.
Okay.
But so we've got Mystic Remora.
Okay.
Mystic Remora is going to draw me hopefully a lot of cards. So because that's here and I can get a turn 1 blue mana source, I'm inclined to keep this 7. Now, in our meta, we're allowed to scry one. Let's scry one. Let's see what's on top. So Ethereum Sculptor says, artifact spells you cast 1 less to cast. That seems like a pretty important card for our combo, right?
I would say so.
I'm going to keep this 7. So that would be a hand that I played out.
So
let's shuffle up.
Mystic Remora. So I guess get into that because that seems like it was a pretty impactful card to draw in that first group.
So read Mystic Remora for yourself. And see what it says there.
Yep. So cumulative upkeep, 1 mana, any color.
Yep.
Whenever target opponent successfully casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. That player may pay 4 mana to counter this effect. So early on, anytime someone's playing any instants, any sorceries, any artifacts, lands, does that include lands?
No lands, no.
No, not lands. Okay.
Because you're not casting lands, you're only playing them.
Gotcha.
And of the things that is like unfuckwithable really in Magic is lands.
Gotcha. That's fair. Makes sense. So that gives you the opportunity to draw cards if people are playing anything early on.
And now, what does an early game usually consist of? Soul Rings, Signets, Cultivate,
Tutors,
all that kind of stuff. What are those non-creature spells?
Right. So people are utilizing those to get to their win conditions.
And it's just drawing me cards. Because they're never going to have that 4 mana to pay to say, like, I'm going to cast this, but you don't get to draw. Because that's a turn 1 Remora.
Yeah.
It's a turn 1 Soul Ring isn't as cool if I'm getting a card draw off of it.
Yeah. That makes sense.
What's pretty cool about Mystic Remora, so it's 1 blue mana, and let's say each of your opponents plays an opening non-creature spell. You paid 1 blue mana for 3 cards.
And that's huge.
That's effectively Ancestral Recall, which is a banned card in the format.
Which is wild.
It seems pretty good, right?
Very good. So
yeah,
I appreciate you.
That's pretty much why I kept the hand, because it's such an insane draw engine, especially in Commander, because people are ramping, they're trying to set up for their own thing, and it's just drawing me cards. So we got 1 keepable hand. Let's go for 3 keepable hands here, right in a row. Let's check the second one out.
All right.
Wow, we did a great job of shuffling. So we get Turn Aside, we get a couple of non-creature spells, plus a Joyra. So Joyra's important because she'll draw me cards as well, but she's on 4 mana, and I only have 1 in hand.
Okay.
So let's do the old scry one, and we've got a 3 mana artifact right on top. This is an easy ship it away. So in this game, we would be going to our second free 7.
Okay. And so I would say is the primary reason because you know you'll only have 1 land out that you'll be able to get early mana from. And
no good way to draw into more. Like if I had 1 mana plus Mystic Remora and like a turn 2 Signet, like I would think about that because my chance of drawing into a land is much higher. And then my plan doesn't get disrupted. Right. But because I had no reliable card draw on 1 or 2, I think heavily about keeping that. Because that's dangerous. You could just leave yourself stranded.
Right.
And a non-factor in the game. So we shuffle up here. We're going to draw our second 7. And let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got the scry one on top. So, this is a much better hand. So, we've got 4 lands, 2 ramping artifacts, 1 being a 0 mana artifact, 1 on 2. This is a way to dig, drawn from Dreams. Look at the top 7 cards, pick 2. For 4 mana, that seems pretty good. And then on top of our library, we have a Whirlwind of Thought. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. What's my hand full of? Non-creature spells. We're going to draw a lot of cards. Definitely. So, I'm inclined to keep this second 7. It seems pretty good. It's going to be a little slow, but let's see what happens.
Especially in a position where your first draw was not keepable. You don't want to have to start going to where you're doing the 6-card draw for an additional mulligan and kind of losing potential. So this is definitely a step up and a good spot to be in for the redraw.
100%. Especially the Arcane Signet represents a turn 3 Kaikar plus a Mox Amber on that turn 3, which will generate me a Spirit. So it's like a 3-mana Kaikar basically on turn 3, which seems pretty good. So that's a definite keepable hand. So now, I would say we shuffle up.
Absolutely. Let's see what we get with this third one, and see where it leaves us with looking to meet the win conditions.
And with these last couple hands, you'll notice like we didn't draw into too many of our tutors. It's not like we saw a bunch of variety of tutors in those 2 hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which increases the... Ooh, this is
tough hand.
Not good. No lands. Can't do anything with that. Plus a no land on top. Can't keep that. Let's just go to our second 7. What's tough is, because there are limited tutors, you have to rely on the card draw engines. Yeah. You want to make sure that you have good options to filter your draws and cycle through your deck and make sure you're hitting the cards that you need to, because your opponents are going to be doing that exact same thing.
So if you're playing, obviously you guys have your own like house rules and all for your Commander League. For Standard Commander, is the redraw a typical inclusion?
Yeah, this is standard play, what I'm doing here.
Gotcha.
So it's more familiar to everybody. In our group, we do like 2 or 3 free mulligans where everybody's just trying to keep a good 7 to have a good game. Nobody wants to debilitate themselves.
Right.
But I'm doing the redraws in this way to illustrate a more like normal environment for everybody.
Gotcha.
Because this is probably what you'd be more used to.
Okay.
All right, so here's a tough one. So we've got 3 lands in hand. We've got a way to bounce our artifacts with Rebuild.
Okay.
Storm the Vault flips into what is effectively a Tolarian Academy. It says add a blue mana to your mana pool for each artifact you control. I tend to generate a whole lot of artifacts in this deck, so that would be tapping for a lot of blue. So that's a consideration. We have a removal piece and a way to draw a card. It's only removal for graveyard decks, though.
Okay.
So, meh. But then we have our reshuffle. We have emergency powers, but that's at 7 mana, so that's pretty tough. This one is pretty much going to rely on like having something just undeniable on the top of my library here. That's like I just could not keep it.
Okay.
Mystic Forge, not where we really want to be. It helps us filter our draws and like look at the top of our library. It's an Elsha effect, but we need something with a little more oomph that's not at 4 mana, so we would probably ship this away. And then we're down to 6. We're starting to do 6 cards. And let's see, just for kicks, let's see what we would ship away, and let's see if we could keep this, or if we'd be going to the dreaded 5.
That's tough.
We're just going to do a couple.
100-card deck, the odds of having a not phenomenal draw are decently high. I mean, obviously, you build the decks to kind of hopefully counteract that, but it definitely is still a tough spot to be in potentially. So
2, 4, 5, 6, 7. It does happen. So we got Counterspell on top. We got Removal in hand. We've got 3. We've got 3 lands.
Okay.
We've got Ramp, which represents an early Kaikar. We've got Retrofitter Foundry that can generate us artifacts and things. We've got Swords to Plowshares, plus a Counterspell on top of our library.
Sounds a bit more keepable.
It sounds definitely keepable, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 cards. That means we got to get rid of 1. The card that I would probably get rid of, knowing that I've turned aside in hand, I'd probably get rid of my Talisman, because I only need 1 to generate a faster Kai card. The other one is just extra.
Okay.
So I'd probably bottom that Signet, keep the Counterspell on top, and keep this hand. We get a Scry, meaning we can bottom something else, and we also have a way to shuffle our library again with the Fabled Passage. So I think this is a fine hand to keep. I'm not like anywhere close to my combo, but I'd be able to generate a board presence at least and kill something and say no to something, which seems reasonable. Plus the turn 3 Kaikar.
Definitely
that seems okay.
A tougher spot to be in, but...
Yeah, I would not have liked to be in that sequence of draws.
But at the end of the third hand with the 6 cards, a little bit much better off than the previous 2.
I would say so. And this is one of the decks that I have a bunch of the necessary tokens for, and I would just like to shout out my two worm tokens for my worm coil engine. These things are so nice. I love them.
They're pretty dope looking too. Yeah. For token creatures, that is pretty cool because I know a lot of them are very basic.
Yeah, so. And those ones are the more iconic ones.
Very nice.
You love to see it. So, folks, that is the Kaikar Wind's Fury deck tech. It's pretty much non-creature Storm, trying to win with Perforos and or a Grape Shot.
Very cool. And another quicker win than what your meta typically hits or has hit previously.
Which is why it's banned. They say, oh no, we don't like this.
That's fair. You just have to have three decks that are like busted, and then that you can.
The rest are pretty fair.
And then, and then you just have to start building more sets that are busted so that they can't ban them all.
Well, that's often how I feel playing against Ian, where like you can't ban out all of what's a problem. He's going to get it's like a pick ban for like really good League of Legends teams. This is how we look back. Is like sometimes you just can't ban out the problem stuff, you know? Oh, I guess true. I need video.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. My face was like huge on the
massive.
So, very cool. So Kaikar, the Wind's Fury.
Yeah, this guy's sweet. He's been a work in progress for a long time, so I think I'm pleased to be able to showcase it in that form because I think it's pretty complete and pretty resilient. So nice. Yeah, I'm very happy with that deck.
And like you said, some solid cards in there: the Force of Will, the Pact of Negation. Pretty big cards to have in the deck.
Oh yeah,
very cool. So,
anything else you want to hit this evening, Aaron?
I think that kind of wraps it up for me. Anything else on your end?
Nope. That's all I had on my list here.
Very good. Very excited. We've got another bonus episode, like we mentioned, coming up this weekend for the Portugal Grand Prix at Portimao. Very excited for it. Should be fun. So keep an eye out for that. You can find us on YouTube. Just look for the Tall and Short of It podcast. We, of course, are still on anchor.fm, and we are on Twitter as well, at Tall and Short of 1, the number 1. So hit us up.
And to everyone listening, we would just like to say thank you very much and stay tuned for next week's episode. Remember to subscribe and hit the like button. It really helps out a new channel like us. That has been the tall and short of it. Peace out, everybody.
Later, guys.